This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law Excellence R&D. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 17th August 2019. The first article for discussion, a considered step that opens up new vistas. This article is about bringing down Article 370 from the Constitution will create new avenues and opportunities for Jammu and Kashmir. In this context, the inclusion of Jammu and Kashmir in India will be complete. All the parliamentary laws, welfare programs of Union will now apply to Jammu and Kashmir state. It will help the marginalized sections of the society. And the next is, the aspirations of the Ladakh can be fulfilled. Along with that, there is gender injustice under the provisions of Article 35A. Today, they can inherit the property even if they marry outside Kashmir. And then, above all, the land restrictions will be lost. The permanent resident status which was given to the Kashmiris in the state will be lost. It means that outsiders can buy the land. Because of this, investments are expected to flow to the Kashmir, which will provide for economic development and prosperity in the region. And historically also, Mr. Naidu says that this Article 370 was never supported by legal experts like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He clearly stated to Sheikh Abdullah that it is an uneven provision between Union of India and the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So, too many benefits are given to Kashmir with too little for India. That was the opinion expressed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Later, a non-official resolution for abrogation of this Article 370 was introduced by Mr. Prakash Veer Sastry. It was supported by the stalwarts like Ram Manohar Lohia, even the Congress leaders like Hanumantaya. Today, this particular provision of removal of the Article 370, it is passed by more than two-thirds majority in Rajya Sabha and three-fourths in Lok Sabha. It means that the entire parliament support exists for the taking away of this particular provision. So this is what Mr. Venkaiah Naidu is trying to say. Next is giving shape to an elusive strategic concept. So this is about Chief of Defence Staff, CDS. This office exists in United States of America and many of the countries. So today, if you observe, Ministry of Defense is the civilian face. And then Army, Navy, Air Force, these are called tri-services. So Armed Forces Headquarters, this is not part of the Ministry of Defense. So it means it functions outside the Ministry of Defense. And any of the military strategy is made by the civilian administration, not involving the military chiefs. In this context, the defense planning need to improve in India. And also Andaman Nicobar commands, these are called tri-service commands. So there is no segregation between Army, Navy, Air Force over there. So Chief of Defense Staff can oversee these tri-service commands. And coming to the defense planning and defense preparedness, the coordination between these three services is essential. This is what Mr. Subramaniam Committee has stated after Kargil conflict. And also group of ministers which are appointed, stated and supported Chief of Defence Staff. So we need to bring in greater integration between civil administration of our defense and also military planning. In this context, a military expert is necessary to express the views of armed forces. In this context, a Chief of Defence Staff can be helpful. But what are the concerns? There is a fine balance which exists between the civil and military in India. So, civilian authority continues over the military. So, a too powerful person, if he comes into office, will this balance get disturbed? And the service chiefs, he is going to be above these service chiefs. He will be a 5-star rating officer. Obviously, as a 5-star rated officer, he will enjoy the greater authority. Will it undermine the authority of the existing service chiefs? This is the second question. And the turf wars will always be there. If he comes from army, chief of defense staff, Obviously, Air Force, they may have the turf wars with them. So, like that, consensus still exists on the Chief of Defense Staff. But, however, India needs to improve its defense preparedness and reorganize defense based on the evolving technological needs. So, in this context, theater commands is what is being spoken of. China has created theater commands, US has theater commands. India also shall have the theater commands. They improve efficiency and swift movement of the armed forces. So that's the reason why we need to have a coordinating office. Chief of Defense Staff can work in such a way. The next, justice for the mob. Remember, mob lynching, cow vigilantism was remarkably seen in the newspapers in the last year. One such a case is murder of Mr. Pehlu Khan in Rajasthan on killing of and transporting of cows. In this context, the police have investigated the case and charge sheet was filed. And whatever the death statement of Mr. Pehlu Khan and the names given in that are not included in the charge sheet. It clearly shows that investigation is faulty. As investigation is faulty, the trial in the court did not stand and all the people are acquitted. In India, the biggest challenge is the failure of investigation and conduct of a free trial. In this, the rule of law will not be established. When rule of law fails in the country, that is danger for a democracy. So this Pehlu Khan murder is kind of a danger for democracy, and lack of proper investigation and trial reflects the same. Next is making CSR work. CSR here refers to corporate social responsibility. Now, initially the government stated as requested or persuaded the business to give a voluntary contributions to the social work. Later it has stated that as a co-option, let us work together towards it. Today it has stated it as a compulsion. It means any company which has got net worth greater than 500 crore or turnover greater than 1000 crores or profit greater than 5 crores, it has to spend 2% of the revenues on social responsibility CSR. So till date there is no penal provision for this. So public sector companies spend close to 9 crore rupees on CSR, but it is around 90 lakhs to private sector companies. It means private sector companies are not actively involved on CSR spending. So government today want to penalize for not spending of this particular money, and it has imposed hefty penalties on the company and the officers responsible for this. And now the question is, can we achieve a desired response by punishing them? So here, incentivize them by giving some tax holiday to that extent. Slowly people gets used to it, then the government can bring or do away with the tax holidays for the 2%. So rather than punishment, incentivize. So by punishment and by closely monitoring the private companies, it will add up to a new tax kind of mechanism on the companies rather than as a CSR. So micromanagement by the government in economy such as India shall be avoided. As the recession fears are coming on to India, India has to be cautious not to disturb the business environment in the country. Next is, it is paddy tube wells and depleting groundwater. So this is about the situation in Punjab, not only in Punjab, in most of the states in India. So huge exploitation of the groundwater, free power, tube wells, these are the reasons for the depletion of it. Now, MSP is given to wheat and paddy. The paddy cultivation is getting a great attention because an assured revenue for them, assured market for them as government is buying it. Unless other crops are also being provided MSP and procured by the state, this particular crop priorities do not change. What is required is crop diversification. Another thing is industrial effluents being released into water and then contamination of the groundwater and changing into alkalinity. These are other dangers. The next part is end of special status and internal matter, says India. So here Syed Akbaruddin spoke outside United Nations Security Council conducted an informal meeting about change in provisions or change in governance structure in Kashmir. It is on the request of China and Pakistan. It's not a very serious meeting, and there is also no keynote address, or there is nothing important in this. So India has given its position clearly that it is an internal matter, and India is not seeking any change in boundaries from the existing position. And the next is India gets first national essential diagnostic list. The WHO stated that based on the diseases prevalent in a particular community, particular diagnostic tests have to be promoted and their quality need to be improved. So a guidance can exist for Government of India in directing the essential diagnostics. Indian Council of Medical Research prepared this diagnostic list. And next is ISRO arm begins search for PSLV makers. A new public sector undertaking was constituted, that is New Space India Limited. It is supposed to encourage or develop consortia to build PSLV. Now, the ISRO core function is R&D, space R&D, but it is also involved with the manufacturing of these launch vehicles. Because of this, its attention is getting diverted. Now, the new arm will take up the responsibility and coordinate the manufacturing of these rockets through the private consortia. And the next, no first use nuclear doctrine is not rigid. So if you see the nuclear doctrine of India, the first is no first use. It means that India will not be the first to launch, but there will be a strong retaliatory response. It means that any country which attacks India with weapons of mass destruction, India will take up a very retaliatory response, which is unforeseen. So for this, India is also developing something called a nuclear triad. What is this nuclear triad? It wants to deliver these weapons from surface of the earth and water and air. That is what we call it as nuclear triad. And the third thing is the common or credible minimum deterrence. We are not going to be in the race to build more and more bombs. We will build them to the extent that are required for India. This is called credible minimum deterrence. So these are the things which are being stated. Now, we have finished this. Every Saturday, students will have 7 to 9 doubt session on current affairs on YouTube channel. I request the students to utilize this particular opportunity. And thank you very much. Have a great day.